Go listen to Bashirou.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وعلى آله وصحبه.
Whoa!
So I'm going to continue.
We can't hear you.
where I started.
Excuse me, Assalamu alaikum. We
Yesterday.
cannot hear you.
And
Wait, can you guys stop talking? We cannot hear the man talking.
Okay, so I'm going to continue from where I left off yesterday. For those who was not here, I'm talking about Ibn Qayyim's book, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi's book. He died in 751 Hijri, and his book is called Madarij al-Salikin. And he wrote the whole book, and he's only talking about Surat al-Fatiha in the book. So he's driving many lessons and many wisdom and many knowledge from the book. And yesterday we talked about how Surat al-Fatiha has arguments for prophets in many ways. And he talked about Surat al-Mustaqim, and he talked also about Hidayah, meaning guidance. So for those who were here yesterday, what type of guidance did I mention yesterday? You was here yesterday, right? Were you paying attention? Okay, I talked about guidance. What did I say about guidance? You don't remember? How about it?
Guidance to knowledge, Allah.
Forgot. So I said that guidance, there are two types of guidance.
Knowledge.
Hidayah dalala and hidayah tawfiq. The guidance of indicating and making things clear, and the hidayah of settlement. You forgot? I said that I gave an example. If somebody asked me where can I take the agent, not to go this way. So I'm indicating him the way and direction. So that's guidance, right? And there's another type of guidance, which is settlement. And that guidance, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has that guidance. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make people settle in the right path. Right? So I said that. And Ibn Qayyim is talking about another type of guidance. So he's actually trying to correlate the guidance in this world and the guidance in the hereafter. So he said, وَلَيْسَ هِدَايَةُ مَا تَبْلُغُ الْأُخْرَى وَهِيَ أَعْلَمُ مَا فِيهَا وَهِيَ الْهِدَايَةُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ إِلَىٰ طَرِيقِ الْجَنَّةِ. He said there is another level of guidance. And that level of guidance is the highest level of guidance. And it's the guidance on the day of judgment towards the path of Jannah. So when the people are already judged, what's the next thing for people who go to paradise? What do? They have to go across the bridge, Surat, the bridge. So he's trying to say that on that day, for people to cross the bridge, they need a guidance. They need guidance. And he said, وَهُوَ صِرَاطُ الْمُوصِلُ إِلَيْهَا وَمَنْ هُدِيَ فِي هَذِهِ الدَّارِ إِلَىٰ صِرَاطِ اللَّهِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَ بِهِ رُسُلَهُ وَأَنزَلَ بِهِ كُتُبَهُ وَهُدِيَ هُنَاكَ إِلَى الصِّرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ الْمُوصِلِ إِلَىٰ جَنَّتِهِ وَدَارِ ثَوَابِهِ. He says that if somebody was guided in this path, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in this path, in this world, he has a path, and that's the path of Surat al-Mustaqim, the straight path, right? And Ibn Qayyim is saying that if somebody was guided in here towards the straight path, in the hereafter he will be guided towards Jannah on Sirat. And he said, وَعَلَىٰ قَدْرِ ثُبُوتِ قَدَمِ الْعَبْدِ عَلَىٰ صِرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ الَّذِي نَصَبَهُ اللَّهُ لِعِبَادِهِ فِي هَٰذِهِ الدَّارِ يَكُونُ ثَوَابُ قَدَمِهِ عَلَىٰ صِرَاطِ الْمُسْلِمِ عَلَىٰ مَثْلِ جَهَنَّمَ. And he said, according to the way that the person was firm in this world, in the Surat al-Mustaqim, that's the same way he will be firm in the hereafter. So in this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided us towards the straight path. But some people are, firm in that path, some people are not. Some people, the same way that people are not firm in this life, that's how not firm, they will be in the hereafter. And if somebody was firm in here on the straight path, then he'll be firm in the hereafter on the Surat, that the Surat which was built on top of Jahannam. So Surat is actually a bridge, and when you think about a bridge, there's something beneath it, and beneath it there's Jahannam, there's the hellfire. And he said, وَعَلَىٰ قَدْرِ سَيْدِهِ عَلَى هَذَا الصِّرَاطِ يَكُونُ سَيْرُهُ عَلَى ذَاكَ الصِّرَاطِ فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَمُرُّ كَالْبَرْقِ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَمُرُّ كَالطَّرْفِ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَمْشِي مَشْيًا وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَكْبُ حَبْوًا وَمِنْهُمْ الْمَخْدُوشُ مُسَلَّى وَمِنْهُمْ الْمُقَدَّسُ فِتْنَةٌ. He says that on the hereafter, when people are walking on the Sirat, there will be people who will cross Sirat like the lightning. And some people will cross like the blinking of an eye. And some people will walk. And some people will crawl. And some people will be, will have, injuries, because on the bridge there are things that like claws that is taking people. He says that some people also will be taken by those claws and thrown into hellfire, and that happens accordingly to how the person was behaving in this world. And so if somebody was firm and steadfast on the Surat al-Mustaqim in this world, he will be firm and steadfast in this hereafter. And if he was going back and forth, sometimes he's back, sometimes he's not, then in the hereafter, when he's crossing the bridge, he will be like that. Sometimes he will fall, sometimes he will get back up and fall, get back up. So that's why he said, فَيَقُولُ الْعَبْدُ سَيْرُهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ الصِّرَاطِ مِنْ سَيْرِهِ عَلَى هَذَا الْحَوْضِ الَّذِي بِالْجِزَّةِ جَزَاءً وِفَاءً هَلْ تُجْزَوْنَ إِلَّا مَا كُنتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. So let the servant see how he will manage to walk on that sirat, on that path in the hereafter. So he says, so let all people look and try to find out how they will walk on that sirat in the hereafter, because you don't have to wait until you get there to figure out how to cross, right? You have to work that out when you are still in this life. And he said, وَلِيُنذِرُ شُبُهَاتِ الشَّهَوَاتِ التي تعوفه عن سيده على هذا الصراط المستقيم فإنها الكلام السبيل والصراط. And he says, let everybody try to figure out the things that are trying to, hinder him from being steadfast in this life. Because if you don't manage to get across all those things that are trying to hinder you in this life, there will be things that are trying to hinder you in the hereafter. And he said, and remember yesterday he was saying he was giving arguments from Surat Fatiha that arguments for sending prophets, right? And he says the sixth argument, he says, is from knowing the things that is being asked. Because in Surah Al-Fatiha we say, Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim, guide us towards the straight path. So he says that we should know what is the straight path. وَهُوَ الصِّرَاطُ الْمُسْتَقِيمُ. It's the Surat al-Mustaqim, but what is it really? He says, لَا تَكُونُ الطَّرِيقُ صِرَاطًا حَتَّى تُتَمَّمُ الْخَمْسَةُ أُمُورٍ. He says that a path cannot be, we cannot call a path straight path, like how to know it in Surah Al-Fatiha, a straight path. He says we cannot call it straight path until it has 5 things. Al-istiqam, straightness, it is straight. Wal-isal ila al-maqsood, and it drives you towards what is being asked and what is being seek. Wal-qurb, and it's close, it's not far, it's close. Wasa'atuhu, and it's wide. It's wide. Wasa'atuhu lil-marina, and it's wide for those who cross it. Ta'yinuhu tariqan lil-maqsood, and that path is the only path that can get you towards what is taught. So, if you want to understand what is really Surat al-Mustaqim, is the one and only path, and the one and only path that is straight and that will, take you to where it starts, and it's close and it's wide, and that's the only one path that can get you towards what you're seeking. And he said, ولا ينفع تدبر الصراط المستقيم إذا جئت الصلاة ثلاثا. And it's not vague that as-sirat al-mustaqim has both all four of these things, right? It's straight, it will drive you towards where it starts. It's close, it's wide for those who cross it, and it's the only one. There's no other alternative. It's the only one path that will get you towards what you're seeking. And he says that that sometimes the path, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributed to himself. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who made it, and is the one who made it a thing. فقوله تعالى وأن هذا صراط مستقيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Surat An-An'am, that this is my path and it is straight. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributed to himself, because he's the one who made it a thing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says also, وَإِنَّكَ لَتَهْدِي إِلَىٰ صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ صِرَاطِ اللَّهِ. And surely you the Prophet, you guide towards the straight path, the path of Allah. The path of Allah. So when Allah says Siratullah, he is actually attributing Sirat, the straight path, to him. And he says also, وَذَلْكَ اللَّهُ إِلَى الْعِبَادِ. And sometimes it is attributed to the servants, the people. Like in Surat Al-Fatiha, Surat الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, the path of those whom you have been given favor. Why? He says, لِكَوْنِهِمْ أَهْلُ سُلُوكِهِ وَهُوَ الْمَنْصُورُ لَهُمْ وَهُمُ الْمَارِينَ عَلَيْهِ. Because those are the people who will walk on top of on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And he gives also another argument for sending prophets. He says, الثامن, the eighth. He said, من ذكر المنعم وتمييزهم من طائفتي الغضب والضلال فانقسم الناس بحسب معرفة الحق والعمل به إلى ثلاثة أقسام. لأن العبد إما أن يكون عالما بالحق أو جاهلا به، والعالم بالحق إما أن يكون عاملا بوجبه أو مخالفا له، فهذه أقسام المكلفين. He says that the sixth argument that is in Surah Al-Fatiha of sending prophets is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned those who have been given favors, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says meaning those whom you have been given favors. And he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them and distinguished them from the people who have been who made Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala angry, and those who have been destroyed. And he says that the people are categorized in three categories according to how Surah Al-Fatiha says it. He says that because knowing the truth and and acting according to how you know the truth, when we think about that, we will see that people either they know the truth and they act upon it, right? Or either they know the truth and they don't act upon it, or either they don't know the truth at all, right? Either they know the truth or they don't know it. If they know the truth, either they act upon it or they don't act upon it. And he says that the people who know the truth and act upon it are the people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been blessed, because they have knowledge, and they act according to what they know. And the people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been angry upon are the people who know the truth but didn't act upon it. And the people who don't know the truth at all, those are the people who are straight. And Surah Al-Fatiha, that's how Surah Al-Fatiha categorizes the people. الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. The path of those whom you have been given blessings, not the path of those who have whom you was angry towards, nor the path of those who were astray. So he says that فَالْعَالِمُ بِالْحَقِّ الْعَامِلُ بِهِ هُوَ الْمُنْعَمُ عَلَيْهِ. The one who knows the truth and acts according to his knowledge is the one who has been given a blessing. So he says هو الذي زكى نفسه بالعلم النافع والعمل الصالح وهو المفلح. And the God says قد أفلح من زكاها. He says that the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been given blessing is the one who has purified his soul, because he's the one who have the beneficial knowledge and also have the righteous acts, and he's the one who is the successful person. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always mentions muflih or aflaha, meaning success, the one who is successful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Shams, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, and surely has succeeded the one who purifies it, meaning the soul, who purifies the soul. And he said, وَالْعَالِمُ بِهِ الْمُتَّبِعُ هَوَاهُ هُوَ الْمَغْضُوبُ عَلَيْهِ. The one who has knowledge but is not following that knowledge, or is not acting according to what he knows, he's the one who have angered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالْجَاهِلُ بِالْحَقِّ هُوَ الضَّالُّ. The one who doesn't know anything at all, he's the one who is astray. And he says that that the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala categorized the people in Surat Fatiha, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the explanation of that. He says that the people who have angered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the Yahud, the Jews, and the people who have been astray are the people, are the Nasara, the Christians, the Christians. And he mentioned a very interesting remark on Surah Al-Fatiha on how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala categorized the three types of people. He said, وَأَضَافَ النِّعْمَةَ إِلَيْهِ وَحَذَرَ فَعِلَ الْغَضَبِ لِوُجُوهِهِمْ مِنْهَا. And he mentioned, he says that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about the people who have been given blessings, he says that أَنْعَمْتَ, you have given them blessing, meaning you, Allah, you have given them blessing. But when he's talking about the people who are astray, he said, the people who are astray. And when the people who have angered Allah, he says, al-maghdubi alayhim, those who have been angry upon you, those who, did what made Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala angry. And he didn't mention who was angry upon them. And to explain that so you can understand it, when you think about, when I say, for example, I saw Khalid, for example, and then I say Khalid was seen, what's the difference? Active and passive, yeah. Active voice and passive voice. And that's the exact, thing that is used in this context. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the people who have been given blessing, he's using it in an active voice, meaning Allah is mentioned. But when he's talking about the people who angered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's using the passive voice, meaning Allah is not mentioned. Allah is angry upon them, but he's not mentioned, right? So he's saying that, why is that? And that is, very common in the Quran. Why is that? Because everything that has to do with blessing and good, it is attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything that has to do with bad things is not attributed to Allah, even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created good and bad, but he never attributes bad to himself. He only attributes good to himself. That's why he says, أن النعمة هي الخير والفضل والغضب من باب الانتقام والعدل. He says that blessing is good. It's a good thing. Blessing is a good thing. And ghadab, anger, is vengeance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also a type of justice. وَالرَّحْمَةَ تَغْلُبُ الْغَضَبِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy overcomes his anger. That's why فَأَضَافَ إِلَى نَفْسِهِ أَكْمَلَ الْأَمْرَيْنِ. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always attribute to himself what is better, because his mercy overcomes his anger. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always attributes to himself what comes out what comes out of his mercy instead of his anger. So he said, وهذه طريقة القرآن في إسناد الخيرات والنعم إليه وحفر الفاعل في مقابلها. So he says that this is the way of the Quran. In all the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always mentioned the blessing and the good things and attribute it to himself. But when he mentions things that are bad, he doesn't attribute it to himself. He just leave it like that, or he mentions it in a passive voice. And he gives example in Surat al-Jinn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَنَّا لَا نَدْرِي أَشَرٌ أُرِيدَ بِمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ أَمْ أَرَادَ بِهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ رَشَدًا. And to translate word for word so you can understand, وَأَنَّا لَا نَدْرِي. And the jinns were talking, and they said, and we don't understand, أَشَرٌ أُرِيدَ بِمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Is it evil that is wanted for those who live on earth? أَمْ أَرَادَ بِهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ رَشَدًا. Or does their Lord want good for them? So you see, in the first sentence, or the first expression, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, is it evil that is being wanted for them, in the passive voice? And when he talk about rushd, meaning guidance and guidance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, or their Lord want for them guidance. And he gives also another example from Surat Kafi. فَأَرَادَ رَبُّكَ يَبْلُغَ أَشُدَّهُمَا وَيَسْتَفْرِغَ كَنْزَهُمَا. It's in the surah. It's in the story of Musa and Khidr, when he made the wall, a wall, and beneath that wall there was a treasure, and he made that fall. So Musa said, "Why did you make it fall?" So he said that when he was explaining to him, he said that I wanted your Lord, or your Lord wanted for them, for the orphans to be, mature, and then they will take their treasure. And when he was talking about blessings, also he mentioned something that scholars have difference of opinion upon. He says that he makes the difference between an-ni'mah al-mutlaqa wa mutlaq al-ni'mah, the encompassing blessing or the general blessing. There's a difference. He says, according to him, there's a difference. General blessing and encompassing blessing. He says that encompassing blessing is the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has upon everybody, whether you're a believer or an unbeliever. But the general blessing, the general blessing is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has for everybody, whether you're a believer or an unbeliever. But the encompassing blessing is the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only has for those who believe. And scholars have difference of opinion whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessing on the people who don't believe in it. And Ibn Qayyim agrees with the people who say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely have blessings for the people who don't believe in him, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you were to count the blessings of Allah upon you, you will not be able to give it a number. So he says that ni'mah, which is blessing, is from the good things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does good for everybody, for whether the people who believe or the people who don't believe. And he gives also another example, or another, yes, he gave another example of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributes, blessings to himself. And he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu, he says that Allah is the only one who has blessings. He's the only one who can give blessings. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Everything that you have in blessings is from Allah. And the phrase, the way it is used in this ayah, means that all type of blessings is from God, and nobody else can give blessings except God. So he says, فَأَضَافَ إِلَيْهِ مَا هُوَ مُنْفَرِدٌ بِهِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will attribute to himself what he and only he has. وَإِنْ أُضِيفَ إِلَىٰ غَيْرِهِ فَلِكَوْنِهِ طَرِيقًا وَمَجَلًا لِلنِّعْمَةِ. And he says that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributes blessings to somebody else, it's because he is the one, or he is the mean by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used to give him blessing, but not him as a person. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that وَيَتَّقُوا لِلَّذِي أَنْعَمْتُ عَلَيْهِ وَأَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِ. Allah was talking about Zayd. Zayd ibn Haritha. He's a Sahabi. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, remember when you said to the one whom I have given blessings and you have given him blessings. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributed to himself blessings that he attributed to the Prophet also blessings. But what Ibn Qayyim is trying to say that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributed to somebody else blessings, it's because that he is the one or the means by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him blessings to, make it reach somebody else, but not him, not because him has the power to give blessings. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the power to give blessings. And he says also that the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions blessings and attributes to himself, and when he's talking about the people who have angered him, he doesn't mention himself. He just said the people who have angered him. He doesn't mention himself. He says that أن في حذف فاعل الغضب من الإشعار بإهانة المغضوب عليه وتحقيره وتسخير شهره ما ليس في ذكر فاعل الله. He says that because in mentioning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them blessings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is honoring them because he's mentioning himself and saying that these people, I have given them blessings. I have given them blessings. And when he's talking about the people who have angered him, he says the people who have been angered upon him, not mentioning himself as a subject, because he wants to belittle them. He wants to belittle them. And he's giving an example. If somebody went to a king and the king honored him, when he wants to proclaim that, he will say, "Oh, the king honored me." The king, and he will mention the king just to give himself a self of esteem that the king, and he's the king, he honored me. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about the people who have been given blessings, he mentioned himself as a sign of honor. And let's skip a little bit. And he says that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Surat al-Mustaqim, his path, not only on Surat al-Mustaqim, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned it defined, meaning when I say a path and the path is different, right? The path is defined. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always says the straight path. So it's defined. It's defined. And it's not plural. It's always single. Why? Because it's only one. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the path that the people of misguidance are following, it's always plural or undefined. And he gives an example. He says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is my path, Sirati, my path, Mustaqiman, it is a straight path. فَاتَّبِعُوهُ, so follow it. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ, and don't follow the path, in plural, the path, plural. And he's drawing your attention to see the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always mentioned the straight path being singular and defined. But the path that the people who don't believe in God, the people of this guidance, the path that they follow is always, many paths, many. Because misguidance is always in different ways. People will have different belief systems, and those belief systems will always take a different path. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that the people of misguidance, they always follow different path. And he mentioned the hadith. He brings a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, narrated by Ibn Mas'ud. Ibn Mas'ud said that خطر لنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خطا وقال هذا سبيل الله ثم خط خطوطا عن يمينه وعن يساره وقال هذه سبل على كل سبيل الشيطان يدعو إليه ثم قرأ قوله تعالى وأن هذا صراط He said, Ibn Mas'ud said that once the Prophet ﷺ drew a line, a straight line, and he said that this is the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he drew many other lines on the left and the right, and he says that these are paths. And on every path there's a shaitan, there's a devil that is standing there and calling people towards it. And then he mentioned the ayah that I just read, that, and he says that this is the path of Allah, so follow this path and don't follow the other path that other people are following, the people of misguidance, the path that they are following. And he comments on the ayah saying that وَهَذَا لِأَنَّ الطَّرِيقَ الْمُوصِلِ إلى الله واحد وهو ما بعث به رسله وأنزل به كتبه لا يصل إليه أحد إلا من هذه الطريق. He says that the path by which people will go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only one path, and that's the path on which He has, chosen His prophets, and the path on which He has revealed His books. And nobody will go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except through that one path. And he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says هذا صراط علي مستقيم, and this is a path upon me, and he says upon me, not towards me. There's a difference. He's about to comment about that, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says upon me and not towards me, because when we talk about a path, it's a path that leads you towards somewhere but not upon somewhere, right? So he's saying that why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say a path upon me and not towards me? And he says that because of two things. Because when ala, the word ala in Arabic, it has the meaning of compulsion or responsibility. Compulsion or responsibility. And he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us that this path, He's responsible for that path. He's responsible for that path, and He and only He has the right to draw people to that path and make it clear for them. And the other way is that when you say ala, it has also the meaning of isti'ala, because ala means on or upon. And if I said this is upon this or on this, that means it's higher. It's higher. So he's mentioning that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this path is upon me, that shows how that path is a higher path than any other path. And he says that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always mentions path, He always says ila, but here particularly He says ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says inna ilayna iyabahum thumma inna alayna hisabuhum, and surely towards us is their return. Towards, He says ilayna, meaning towards us is their return. Thumma inna alayna hisabuhum, and verily upon us, or it is our responsibility to judge them. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about responsibility, He says alayna. Alayna means upon us. But when He's talking about a path or direction, He says ilayna, towards us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says also in ilayna marja'uhum, their return is towards us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says thumma ila rabbika marja'uhum, and surely towards their Lord is their return. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about responsibility, He says thumma inna alayna hisabuhum, and verily upon us their judgment. Inna alayna jam'ahu wa qur'anahu, and verily upon us is compiling. We will compile it and we will recite it for you. The Quran, when He was talking about the Quran, we will compile it for you and we will recite it for you. Meaning it's our responsibility. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا, and there is no beast, meaning no animal on earth except that it's Allah's responsibility to sustain it or to provide for it. And he mentions also why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always says ala, meaning upon the straight path. Because as I said earlier, that ala has a meaning of height, height meaning something being high. And he mentions that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always talk about the people who believes, he wants to elevate their rank. He must elevate their rank. That's why he always use they are upon the straight path. That's why he says Ulaika ala huda min rabbihim. And verily those are the people who are upon the guidance of their Lord. And he says to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet, فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّكَ عَلَى الْحَقِّ الْمُبِينِ. And have tawakkul on Allah, because you are upon the truth, the clear truth. And he says, وَاللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلُّ هُوَ الْحَقِّ وَصِرَاتُهُ حَقٌّ وَدِينُهُ حَقٌّ. And he said that Allah is the truth, and his path is the truth, and his religion is the truth. فَمِنْ اسْتَقَامَ عَلَى صِرَاتِهِ فَهُوَ عَلَى الْحَقِّ وَالْهُدَى. And whoever is steadfast on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he is on the truth and he's on guidance. And he mentions that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people of misguidance, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people of misguidance, he used a different preposition. I said earlier that ala means high, means upon, but there's the idea of being high. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people of misguidance, he always used fi, and fi means under or beneath. So that means that there's something on top of it. And he says that like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says hum fi raybin yataraddadun, and they are in doubt. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَالَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا صُمٌّ وَبُكْمٌ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the people who disbelieve in our signs, they are deaf and blind. They are deaf and blind, and they are living in darkness. They are in darkness. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always mention fi, because there's the idea of being beneath or low in rank. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says also, فَذَرْهُمْ فِي غَمْرَتِهِمْ حَتَّى حِينٍ, and leave them in their state of unawareness until the moment. In their state of unawareness. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used fi, meaning under. وَإِنَّهُ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مُرِيبٍ, and they are in doubt, in very deep doubt. And he says, وَتَعَمَّلْ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى وَإِنَّ أَوْإِيَّاكُمْ لَعَلَى هُدًى أَوْ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ فَإِنَّ طَرِيقَ الْحَقِّ تَأْخُذُهُ عُلُوًّا صاعدة بصاحبه إلى العلي الكبير، وطريق الضلال تأخذه سفلا هاوية بسالكها في أسفل سافلين. He says that think about when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said and say, are we or you upon guidance, or are we being astray? And he's drawing your attention to the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used ala and fi. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنَّ أَوْ إِيَّاكُمْ لَعَلَى هُدًى, upon guidance, أَوْ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ, or in doubt and misguidance. So he says that the path that's leading to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always high, but the path of misguidance is always beneath and low. And he says that وَصِرَاطُ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ هُوَ صِرَاطُ اللَّهِ وهو يخبر أن الصراط عليه سبحانه كما ذكرنا ويخبر أنه سبحانه على الصراط المستقيم. And he mentions that Surat al-Mustaqim is the path of Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentioned that he is upon the Surat al-Mustaqim. What do you understand from that? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is on the Surat al-Mustaqim.
He attributed to himself.
Yes, he attributed to himself, but then again he says also that I'm on the Surat al-Mustaqim.
Like when he said that those two times in the other paths, he's on that path to guide you.
Yes, that too. Because he says it in two surahs. In Surat Hud and in Surat Nahl. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ آخِذٌ بِنَاصِيَتِهَا إِنَّ رَبِّي عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. And there is no beast, nor there is no animal on earth except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is guiding it, and Allah is on the straight path. So the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who guides makes him on the straight path, because he knows the straight path, and he's the one who's supposed to guide people towards the straight path. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says in Surat Al-Nahl, وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا رَجُلَيْنِ أَحَدُهُمَا أَبْكَمُ لَا يَقْدِرُ عَلَى شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ كَلٌّ عَلَى مَوْلَاهُ أَيْنَمَا يُوجِهُ لَا يَأْتِ بِخَيْرٍ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي هُوَ وَمَن يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَهُوَ عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving an example, a parable of those of him and the false gods. Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being the true deity and the false god. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you an example, a parable of two men. One of them is mute. He cannot talk. One of them is mute, and he cannot do anything. And he is incapable. He cannot do anything. And everywhere that you send them, they won't come back for nothing. They won't come back with anything. Is that person equal to the person who is always trying to make people good, and he is on the straight path? You understand? So the two examples is that two men. One of them is mute. He cannot do anything, and the other one is always telling people to be just, and he's on the straight path. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving the parable of him and the false god, because the false gods, especially in Arabia, they used to worship idols, right? And can idols do anything? They're mute, right? They cannot talk. They cannot do anything, right? And the people who used to worship them, they make them themselves, and they carry them, and they do services for them, and then they worship it. They make it and they worship it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, is that equal to the one who created everything? The one who is telling people to be just, and the one who is on the straight path. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning that He is on the straight path. And he's mentioning Ibn Qayyim, he's commenting on the ayah, saying that that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on the straight path because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who knows the straight path, and He is the one who is guiding people towards the straight path. So He and only He has the utmost, ability to guide people towards the straight path. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on the straight path. And He says that everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does is justice and wisdom. Is justice and wisdom. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to do something that is unjust or something that is not wise, then He will not be on the straight path. And the straight path means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do things that are according to His wisdom and His knowledge. And he brought also the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which the Prophet, when he used to make dua, or he used to say labbaik wa sa'altu wa khairu kulluhu biyadik wa sharru laysa ilayk, that I'm responding to your call, being happy. That's what we say when you go to Hajj, labbaik wa sa'altu, I'm responding to your call, being happy with it. Wa khairu kulluhu biyadik, and all the good things are under your control. Wa sharru laysa ilayk, and evil is never from you, or evil will never go towards you, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that and towards Him rises the good speech, and He's the one who raises the good deeds. So the things that goes towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can only be good. Nothing bad goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in his prayers, he used to always say, that evil will never go towards you. Right. So this was the first section in which he was talking about all of that. Do you have any questions?
I have many questions. One of them is, why is it that when Allah subhanahu
Okay.
why is it that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about himself sometimes, he uses the pronoun our as opposed to me?
Yes. Because in Arabic, the na means our or we, na. And now there's two meanings for it. When I say we, I can mean me and other people who are with me. When I say we go, me and other people who are with me. And sometimes when I say we, I can say because I'm trying to make myself big, grandiose. And sometimes kings or people who do speech, they do that. They say we decree this and this, and they only mean themselves, but they say we because they want to make themselves feel big and majestic. So that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using we now, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is majestic. He says we, meaning himself, but he says we or us.
Okay, jot nga yegg ci tafsiru ko innahu ta'ala jaddu rabbina ko mu dogu.
I don't know what I'm doing. Who goes there?
Ko mu fi jaddu rabbina.
Yeah, waxoon na ci kolon.
Yeah, tukuloo yi am na fi ma jaar tukuloo yi dafa am na ko.
Bàyyi ko kii mën na la question.
So does that mean he's specified as a gender? Like, is he a male or like a spirit?
Yes, that's a good question. In Arabic, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always referred to as the pronoun he, but that doesn't mean he has a gender. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have a gender. He created gender, so he cannot have a gender. God is not a male, he's not a female. He created male, gender. You understand? But language is different, the use of language is different. Because there is no word in English, maybe in English, but in Arabic, that is referred to somebody who is not a male or female. In Arabic, even the words, like for example, they're either male or female. And in French too, words, either they're masculine or feminine. Right? So that's why in the use of language, we refer to God as he, but that doesn't mean he has gender. Right?
Comme damir zakar moo gën a mag daal. Damiru zakar moo gën a mag.
Moo gën a mag.
Fii. Somebody has a question. Yes.
Is
Intellectual ngeen deneen laaj Bashirou.
okay.
Yep, family.
So you were giving the 5 descriptions about Surat al-Mustaqim. 2 questions I had about that is the reason it's described as wide because it's for many people to be on it, and why is it described as close?
Why is it described as close?
Yeah, that was one of the words you used.
Yes. Why is it described as close, and why is it
Described as wide.
wide? Yes. Why is it described as wide? Because many people has a crosshair, and from the beginning of time until our time, a lot of people have been on the straight path. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided a lot of people. That's why the straight path is described as being wide, because a lot of people has a crosshair, right? And it is described as being close because if you don't know where you're going, the way is always long, right?
If you don't know where you're going.
Like, you know, when you're traveling for the first time.
If you don't know where you're trying to go, the way is always long. You're going.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
But if you know where you're going, it's straight. You just get up and you go there. It's easy.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You were describing earlier how when people after they judge, they have to cross the bridge of Surat. Some people they walk, others like they get hurt and all that. Others they do it in the blink of an eye or like with the speed of lightning. Does the ease with which somebody crosses a bridge, does it have a correlation with like what level of trauma they have? Let's say do it
Yes.
easily in your day.
Yes. That it has a correlation with how you act on this world, and he was mentioning it because if you're on this world and sometimes you pass, sometimes you're not, you might go there and sometimes you fall and sometimes you get back up. And also, they mentioned that people will have light on Surat, and some of them their light will be big and illuminating, and some of them their light will go off and come back. So there's a correlation between how you act on this world and how you cross the bridge into your hereafter, and also there's a correlation with how you cross the bridge and your level of paradise.
Two more questions. So, is Sirat al-Mustaqim, as you're describing, you seem like you're describing a theoretical one of like being on the right path. But then when you're talking about the literal Sirat al-Mustaqim, that's a different description.
That's a different description. And that's he was drawing our attention to make that, that observation that the Sirat al-Mustaqim in this world is theoretical, right?
Right.
Because the Sirat al-Mustaqim is not a path that you see, but it's an idea. It's a concept,
A concept, yeah.
conception, right? But the real Sirat al-Mustaqim is in the hereafter, and that's the Sirat that you have to cross. And it has the same name, Sirat.
Okay. And has Sirat al-Mustaqim, the theoretical one, changed
No, it
through
cannot
time?
change.
And the reason I asked that is because Islam wasn't always, it was always here, but it wasn't always here, Islam was...
What do you mean by hell?
Like, Islam came with the Prophet Muhammad, sort of. Like, it came, I guess it was officially established as the name Islam when the Prophet Muhammad was here. Though people say Islam started with Adam, right?
Yeah.
But some of the things that was given to the Prophet Muhammad was not given to Adam. So like in terms of like praying 5 times a day. So that's why I'm asking, has it changed through time? So I don't know how to really describe this question, but like if Sirat al-Mustaqim means that you pray 5 times a day, right? But there are people who don't do that. Like how do you, what is Sirat?
Sirat al-Mustaqim has a general meaning, and guidance itself has a general meaning. And yesterday we were talking about it because he said that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to guide somebody, he will first, make him know the truth, right? Whether it's in general or in particular. He says, ijmalan or tafsiran. Whether it's in general or in particular. In general, meaning that he will make him know that the basic belief system that that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants people to know, meaning that they will believe and they will know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one and He's the only one who should be worshipped, and they should be good and they should worship God. Like that's in general Sirat al-Mustaqim. But each and every prophet have their own Sharia. That's a different thing. That's in particular. And the only one message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given all the prophets is that they should worship Allah alone and not worship any deity besides Him. That's Islam. That's Sirat al-Mustaqim. And in particular, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them laws that is, according to how they used to live and according to, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want His servant to have a harsh life. Right, so He will give them, like for example, there are things that were allowed to the people, the nation before Islam, and not allowed to us, and there are things that were not allowed to the people before Islam are allowed to the people in Islam. So each and every prophet have their own laws and their own way of life. And to each and every prophet or to each and every nation, we gave a Sharia meaning law, and we gave them also a way of life, right? A way of life, because the people who are living in Africa have a different way of life than the people who are living in Asia or who are living in Europe, and each and every prophet will have the laws and the way of life that is according to how they're living. So the Surat al-Mustaqim in general, is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not worship anything besides Him. That's Surat al-Mustaqim. But each and every prophet have their own teachings that you should follow. Right?
So, according to how you follow this, you know how when you, every time when you pray, you ask Allah to put you in the right path, and based on how you follow the path, is that how you're gonna cross the bridge later on?
Yes. Exactly.
So however you act here, that's how you're gonna put a show there.
Is the only Surat al-Mustaqim like Kim or Kim? Surat al-Mustaqim. Is the only one today.
So?
Is the only one today based off of what you said Islam though?
Yes. Because you wasn't here yesterday, but I said it yesterday because the people, the Jews and the Christians, why do we consider them non-believers? Even though they believe in God.
Right.
Right? But why do we consider them non-believers? Because if you deny a prophet, you deny God. Right? And they denied Muhammad, so they denied Allah. Right?
Is there can be an istiqamah without Islam?
No. Yes, they can.
How?
Because there are people who still, act according to the teachings of the Bible and the Torah. And the Bible and the Torah has, some teachings that are Islamic, that Islam also teach, meaning being good to your neighbor and, giving charity and stuff like that. And the people who are orthodox to those teachings, they can have a good way of life. But when it comes to their belief system, what do they believe in? Then if what they believe in is different from what Islam teaches, then they're not on the straight path. Kon ñoom amuñu istiqaama daal bu fekkee seen gëm-gëm dafa wutee gëm-gëm Islam amuñu istiqaama mais bu fekkee seen dundin bokk na dundin Islam am nañu istiqaama.
إن الذين آمنوا والذين هادوا والنصارى والصابين من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وعمل صالحا فلهم أجرهم إلى آخر الآية. Yeah, I think is it's still in Islam. As you said in side of your speech, as you said, there are Yasin asked, there was Islam before Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but established Islam starting from Islam is the law, this law Sharia started with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because for example, there was before Islam, a fact istiqamah before Islam, but now I'm not sure what. So it's still istiqamah is Islam right now. Another deen, they can't have istiqamah right now, the actual life.
If everybody is on a separate journey to get to Allah, then how come we don't each have our own path to get to Him? There's just one general path.
Yes, that's the point. When the Prophet ﷺ drew a straight line, he said that this is the path of Allah, only one, and he drew many other paths, and he said that these are paths, and on each and every path, there's a devil who's calling to that path. So in general, there's only one path. But people, just like I said, people have different lifestyles, right? So people will have their own way according to the tradition, how to live and how to do things. And for example, when you go to Asia and stuff like that, you'll find people who, when you go to Senegal, people will not do that. right? And they have their own way to do their stuff, but it's still in general on Surat al-Mustaqim. Because Surat al-Mustaqim doesn't mean everybody has to look the same and do the same thing. They have to be, in general, they have